Good morning. Happy Friday. All right, so guys, we are still in the first 100 days. Okay, and yesterday we talked about the A. The Agricultural Adjustment Act created the Agricultural Adjustment Administration. Now, here's the thing, guys. We got a lot of acronyms, and a lot of them, the last word starts with an A. So if you had to guess on a test, I wonder what this A stands for. Guess administration. Okay. Now, you guys know the TVA is not the Tennessee Valley Administration. It's the Tennessee Valley what? Authority. Okay. That's the only one. The rest of them are administration. Well, the Act creates the administration. Everybody with me? Now, the next one we're going to talk about, guys, and I'm going to have you guys read something here in a few minutes, okay, about the next one. And it's actually a book review, which you guys are going to be writing very soon. A book review about the NRA and some other stuff, okay? So, Peter, whoever else is watching this, I'm going to lecture for a little bit, and then I'm going to turn this off. And then we're going to have a discussion about what we read when you get back, if you ever come back, how many ever days everybody's missing. I'll give it to you and let you read it. Okay. Good? Okay, so we're going to the NRA. Not the National Rifle Association. Okay? But the National Industrial Recovery Act will create the National Recovery Administration. On the next slide. On the next slide. Okay? This is the Blue Eagle of the NRA. This looks to me like a beauty pageant or some type of parade with an NRA symbol in the background. Seems to me like somebody's trying to sell us something. You guys heard of propaganda? Okay. Oh, this woman that has a restaurant is putting up a sign in her restaurant. We do our part. Okay? You all need to do your part to help with the depression. Okay? You need to make sacrifices for the benefit of society. This is an industrial code book for construction, the construction industry. Every industry is going to get a code book. All right? Under the National Industrial Recovery Act, or the NRA. Oh, there's another one. There's a retail trade book. Every sector of the economy will get a code book given to them by whom? The federal government. Here it is. So, as said, fight for industrial recovery. National Industrial Recovery Act creates the National Recovery Administration. This is going to change the face of business in the United States. These code books for fair dealing. Yes, sir. National Industrial Recovery Act creates the National Recovery Administration. Does that make sense? So like the Agricultural Adjustment Act creates the Agricultural Adjustment Administration. I guess NRA is easier to say than NIRA.
I think you said that on purpose.
I don't think I did.
National Industrial Recovery Administration. NIRA.
That's national. Isn't that the drag racing thing? The drag racing people. NIRA. Okay. The goal here is to keep prices up, keep wages up. So the government's going to come up with new regulations for businesses. Okay? They're going to set a maximum work week. What is that? How long is that? How many hours? 40 hours. Okay? So if you work at a JOB, that is not, like I'm under contract. So I'm a salaried worker, right? Do I ever work over 40 hours a week? Yes. Especially starting Monday. Okay? And really, since we've done this pitching and catching stuff, I've put in some, 15-hour days. Yeah. When you add it all up, I might be making minimum wage here. But I'm a salary worker. Now, if you work for hourly wages, 40 hours. What happens when you work more than 40 hours? You get overtime pay. Okay? That is regulated by the government. Okay? Now, they're also going to put in a minimum wage. Now, the vast majority of you have already been through government class. You know a little bit about the Constitution, yeah? All right, think about this. Does the government have the power to tell a private industry, a private business owner, how much they have to pay their employees? No. And guys, let me tell you something. The Supreme Court is going to strike this down. Pretty much this whole program is going to be struck down as unconstitutional, including the minimum wage. Okay? We asked Mr. Ebrat, how do we have a minimum wage today if they struck it down in 1936 as unconstitutional? We have a national 725, what it is, right? 725, okay? Minimum wage. Now, some states go higher than that, yes? Some cities go higher than that. But the minimum, the national government sets is 725. How is that possible when it was declared unconstitutional in 1936? Here's an easy answer. Are the same people on the court today that were on the court in 1936? No, those people are all dead. Yes? And you get different judges that interpret the Constitution differently. Yes? Now, in this case, anybody do the homework assignment? Anybody remember writing about this at all? Like, okay. Did you run across something called the switching time saves 9? You didn't run across that? You just copy and pasted it and dumped it in there?
I never used to do that.
I'm not looking forward to grading those. We need an attitude adjustment in here, okay, on how we do these assignments. All right. The government's going to tell you, if you own your own business, what you're going to produce, how much you're going to produce, and what price you're going to be able to sell it at. Any of you guys have family member who owns their own business? Your dad used to do the aircraft like part stuff, right? Metal stuff, right? What else you got?
Airplane, composite part construction.
Okay. Similar. Yeah. Okay. Now, that's it's kind of a service industry, so it's going to be affected, like the prices that they're allowed to charge, okay? The amount of patients they're going to be allowed to see, okay? The type of pain that they're going to be able to help. You're going to have a code book. Now, you're only going to be able to make certain parts. You're going to pay your employees this much. This is how many parts you're going to be able to make, and this is what you're going to be able to sell them for. This is all controlled by the government. Anybody see an issue with this? It's not communism because you still own the business. If it was communism, you wouldn't own that business anymore. There's no private property. So what is it? This is not socialism. Socialism is redistribution of income. Now, if you create programs where you take from people and then you just give to other people, that's socialism. What is it? What is it? How do we describe this? It starts with an F. Fascism. Okay? Now, this is the argument that is being made in the article that I'm about to have you read. Okay? It's an article published in 2008. Okay? And you'll see on the cover here, this Blue Eagle of the NRA. Now, this paper doesn't just talk about the Blue Eagle of the NRA. The title of this article is Who's Fascist Now? Okay? This is a book review of a book that was published in 2008. The book was called The Secret History of the American Left from Mussolini to the Politics of Meaning. Liberal Fascism. Now, when we did the political spectrum in government class, I gave you on the far left, communism. I gave you on the far right, fascism. The argument being made by this author is that fascism can come from both the left and the right. Okay? So before we do this, for the purposes of those watching at home, or that of those 135 subscribers of mine, because this is really interesting stuff, especially to me. Okay? Hopefully it is to you. Now, right off the bat, I just want to say this. I am not calling Franklin Roosevelt a fascist. I'm not doing that. Okay? I'm describing this program as fascist. Okay? Like I said, this is all going to be struck down as unconstitutional. You can't do this under our system of government. Yes?
Remind me what fascism.
I'm about to. Okay. So when you read this article, you're going to see the author describe it as this. Supercharged. That's an I. Nationalistic. What I do? Everything okay? Statism. Now, what the heck does that mean? Okay, now, when you talk about Hitler, you talk about Mussolini, you talk about nationalism. These are the two fascists we know about, right? I know we haven't gotten to them yet, but okay, Mussolini's the first fascist. We've learned that. Okay, he's the guy that coined the term. Now, guys, listen, by 1936, Germany was out of the Depression. We were still mired in the Depression. So there were people in the United States that said, this guy Hitler's got it going on. Like, he's fixed and they were in way worse shape than we were. You understand? He fixed it, mostly through militarization. Okay, but it was nationalistic, guys. It was a one-party state. It was Nazi Germany. It was nationalism. Okay, the greatness of the German people. This is nationalism. You follow me? Okay, that is something that is very common with fascism. Okay, supercharged nationalism is like supercharged patriotism, right? Is there anything wrong with patriotism? Most people would say, no, not really. You love your country. But when it gets a little bit too much, people call it nationalism. Yes? And what we learned from World War I, guys, what historians tell us is that nationalism was a cause of a world war, the Great War. So, i.e., nationalism must be bad. Oh, this is what people teach. So, supercharged nationalistic statism. It's the state. That's the government. Okay? So the state is going to have more power to control. That's what this is. Okay? You got the Blue Eagle. It's patriotic. Okay? Now, generally, as you look up the definition of fascism in the dictionary, trust me, if you look at it in 1940, you're going to get a definition that's different in 2020. Because that's what they do. Okay, now listen, there's 4 characteristics of fascism. You need a strong leader. Somebody that is very popular. They got to be popular, guys. Okay? Otherwise, you don't pull this off. Now, with Hitler, Hitler was one and the same as the nation. So what you did on behalf of the Fuhrer, the leader, you did on behalf of the nation. Let us all do our part. Two, we've done this before. Did we do this in government? Okay. Not yet, or I'm talking to people who had it last semester. Did we do this? Okay. Guys, fascism does not happen unless there's a crisis. It could be a military crisis. It could be a war. It could be an economic crisis. Guys, it can be a made-up crisis. Okay? It could be a pandemic. A medical crisis. Guys, it doesn't happen without a crisis. And because of that crisis, this leader and that government is going to take action. You're going to see a lot of action. Now, some of the New Deal, guys, here's just plain old socialism. And we've been doing socialism in this country for a long time. Okay? The fights we have over socialism is how socialist do we want to be? Our public school system is socialism. But we all pool our money together and we educate each other's kids. That's socialism. Our road system, our highway system is socialism. We pool our money together, we share it, and everybody benefits from it. Okay? Some people want to do that with healthcare. Some people don't. Because who gets to make the decisions about the schools? Who gets to make the decisions about the roads? Well, the government does. And finally, 4, socialism is usually, fascism is usually accompanied by some type of symbol. For the Germans, we know what this was. Okay. For the Italians, it was the black shirts. That was like, it was a movement. Yeah, the black shirts, it was a movement. They wore black. The communists wear red. Red, red flags. You know what I mean? Like they had a movement. That was their symbol. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to put one in here that's not in the article, and then I'm going to give you the article. Okay. That deals with the United States. Not a Democrat like Roosevelt, but a Republican. Okay. George W. Bush. Okay. 9/11 happens, right? 2001. The United States suffers the worst terrorist attack in American history. 3,000 Americans are killed on that day. World Trade Center comes down, the Pentagon was attacked, and Flight 93, United Flight 93, crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Our response to that attack by the government, I can remember days after. Did I show? In history, I showed you the George W. Bush throwing out the first pitch, the Yankee game, right? The patriotism, guys. The patriotism. American flags everywhere. You go to Quick Trip, you go to Casey's, they're selling all these ribbons with magnets that you put on your car. Flags everywhere. Everybody's like, guys, I tell you what, man, we were more united on September 12th than we've been united since probably World War II. This country freaking came together. It was awesome just to see that response. Now, the government wanted to make sure this never happened again. We were in a crisis. We did not know if more attacks were coming. We were scared. Because of this crisis, we allowed the government to do some things that normally we wouldn't let them do, like surveillance. Okay? The type of surveillance. There's this thing they passed through Congress called the Patriot Act. You guys heard of this? It really gave the government massive new surveillance powers, investigatory powers, and so forth that threatened our Fourth Amendment rights. So, who's the leader? Bush, extremely popular. He went down to the rubble at New York City, guys, with a megaphone. There were firefighters out there. They were still combing through the wreckage. He's out there. He's hugging people, talking to them. And then somebody hands him a megaphone. And you guys seen a clip of this? It's freaking awesome. He stands on that pile of rubble and he says, the people that knocked down these buildings will soon be hearing from the United States of America. We are going to bring these people to justice. Guys, we were rallying around our leader. We were patriotic. We were in a crisis, and he needed to protect us. Action that some would say violated our rights. What was the symbol? The American flag. Am I calling George W. Bush a fascist? No. This is temporary fascism. This is temporary fascism. Now, people love to use that word. People love to call other people fascists. You ever heard Donald Trump called a fascist? Yeah. It's BS. Now, is Trump a nationalist? Make America great again. Is he a nationalist? America first. Yes, he's a nationalist. No question, guys. He's also a populist. Is he a statist? One of his favorite sayings is this: drain the what? Swamp. Drain the swamp. Where's the swamp? Washington, D.C. is the swamp. Drain the swamp. Not build the swamp up with more power over the American people. No, he wants to drain it and give it back to the people in the states. That's not a statist, guy. He's trying to reduce the size of government, not give it more power. That's not fascism. Okay? You can call him a lot of things. You call Trump all kinds of things. But it's not right to call him a fascist. Okay? And it's not right to call Roosevelt a fascist. So can we be intellectually honest? Do you now understand a little bit more about fascism and what it means? Now, the author of this article does a pretty good job at looking at different periods of American history, like this, to point it out that it doesn't necessarily always come from the right. Sometimes it comes from the left. So you're going to read a little bit about Woodrow Wilson. That question we talked about on the last assignment about eugenics. You guys might remember that? Okay. All right, so pretty interesting article. There you go. And a pretty interesting book.